I haven't. I don't remember if I did this last time. Is your mic live?
Well, let's
Yeah, that's live.
Actually,
But
no.
the rest are,
No.
all the mics are live, right?
All right.
Well, let me, Darren.
Okay. He's good to go.
Yes. Okay.
We'll call this council meeting to order at 6 p.m. First of all, I need a motion for the adoption of the minutes, please.
Resolved that the minutes of the regular meeting of council held at City Hall on January 11th, 2021 be adopted as circulated.
Moved by Councillor Buds and seconded by Councillor Meyer. All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. We have one delegation this evening. Donna Frost from the Alzheimer's Society of Manitoba is here to present. Donna, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Welcome.
Thank you.
The floor is yours.
Okay, so good evening. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Donna Frost. I'm the regional coordinator with the Alzheimer's Society of Manitoba for North Central Region, which includes Portage la Prairie, and this is where my office is. September 21st, I had the privilege of meeting with Mayor Ferris in 2020, and he issued a proclamation that September 21st, 2020 was Dementia Friendly Day for World Alzheimer's Day. So I just wanted to talk to the rest of you and just kind of discuss what does this mean for Portage la Prairie. So I'm just going to give you a quick overview. I'm sure everybody's heard the word dementia. So dementia is really, it's an umbrella term. It includes things like Lewy body's disease or frontal temporal dementia or Alzheimer's. There's 80 different forms or diseases that include dementia as the most significant piece. And so dementia is marked by memory disorder, impaired reasoning, inability to think or make decisions. And it's when it interferes with your everyday life. So when we say that Portage la Prairie could be a dementia-friendly community, what that means is just to be aware that a large portion of the citizens at some point are either going to know someone that has dementia, live with someone who has dementia, or is themselves living with a form of dementia. And unlike many different diseases, it's not physically apparent when you meet somebody. A lot of my clients tell me that they'll be out shopping with their person with dementia, and the family friends will say, well, there's nothing wrong with him. What's she complaining about? And it's because often people with dementia can really present very well socially for about 10-15 minutes. How's the weather? How are your children? And so people don't understand for 24 hours of each and every day, there are many different struggles. There are many different challenges that arise for care partners, caregivers of someone who's living with dementia. So when I'll say a man and wife go out in public and say the wife is needing a new outfit and she has dementia. When they go into the shopping store, the wife is going to need some assistance helping herself get dressed. And there comes that stage in dementia where it's very hard to dress yourself. So her husband would need to escort her. So what does he do? You have a men's change room and you have a woman's change room. So that's some of the difficulties that people run across. Often people with dementia are not able to sit for long periods. So maybe in church, after about 10-15 minutes, they would get up and walk around. And people might think, well, is that incredibly rude? These are just little examples, but I'm just here to hopefully help people be more aware that there's many people dealing with dementia of some form. And so sometimes when behavior is not expected or considered socially acceptable, it could very well be that they are dealing with some type of, there's some form of dementia. In Canada, right now, they're estimating over 570,000 Canadians are now living with dementia. And we can expect that number to rise to over 930,000 people within the next 15 years. So that's a 66% rise in dementia. In Manitoba alone, there's over 23,000 Manitobans that have Alzheimer's or another type of dementia. The financial impact is huge, and it's going to go up and up because the combined healthcare system and out-of-pocket caregiver costs total an estimated $10 billion a year in Canada. In Manitoba, the economic burden of dementia is close to $1 billion, and it's expected to grow to more than $28 billion. So if you're a businessman looking ahead to the future, I think it would be very wise to start thinking about the baby boomers and people that are going to be developing dementia, and trying to have the staff be more aware and how to best serve them customer service, how to make the environment more dementia friendly with the lighting and the signage, just those kind of things. So I see my time's nearly up. I just wanted to say, I'm just hoping to plant a seed in everyone that's here today, and to consider what Portage could do for this big wave that's coming up of people that will be struggling with dementia, and how we can help their care providers. The longer we can enable someone to age in their own home, the better it is economically, the better it is spiritually, emotionally. And so we need to also support those care providers. So when you see someone struggling with a loved one that you're pretty sure has dementia, rather than being impatient or frustrated with them and increasing their stress level, to just be aware of what they might be dealing with, and to be patient and kind and accepting. And I did leave a little video, a 2-minute video. I was hoping to end with that because it's got a powerful impact, but due to the technology, I'm not able to do that. I don't know if any of you viewed it ahead of time, but if you didn't, I would really appreciate that 2 minutes, sometimes before you end your meeting, or at home, if you could just look at that video. It says it so much better than I could. Thank you.
Were there any questions from council? Councillor Knox?
Hi, thank you, Donna. Great presentation, and I did view the video, and you're very right. It's very impactful. I would just like some more information from you, not today, but if you could forward it on in the last page of your presentation. You talked about advocate for policy changes. So I'd just like more information on what those policies might be in a dementia-friendly community. If you could forward that.
Yeah, I will definitely do that. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Councillor Wall, you had a question too?
Yes, I too wanted to thank Donna for the presentation. I did watch the video. I'm fairly familiar with dementia and Alzheimer's in particular. My wife worked for many years as a psych nurse on Third Wing at the Lions Manor. And I know several folks in the community who have struggled trying to keep a loved one at home with dementia, and really could have used a lot more support in the community. So thank you for what you're doing.
Absolutely. You're welcome. I worked with your wife, Pat, for many years, and she was just a wonderful charge nurse. I really appreciate everything I learned under her. So say hi to Pat, please.
Councillor Draycott?
Thank you, Your Worship. Also, I would like to say thank you, Donna, for coming this evening and sharing some information with us. Is there anywhere or any beneficial place that somebody could get a hold of you if they're struggling with a family member that has dementia that is looking for some support?
Yes, absolutely. My office has moved several times in the last few years, and we're having trouble getting the signs down because everyone's busy with COVID. My actual location right now is within the Herman Pryor Center. And I am on the website for Alzheimer's Manitoba. And so, yeah, I'm right in the Herman Pryor Center, which is actually a really good place. I've only been with the Alzheimer's for 1.5 years, and I did find there's still a stigma attached with dementia, and to be walking in to a building that is very big sign, Alzheimer's. I think it was off-putting, and by being in the Herman Pryor Center, nobody knows, are they going just to get foot care, their blood pressure, a meal, yoga, Alzheimer's, palliative care. So I think it was a really good move. I've certainly had, even with COVID, I've had a lot more people come by looking for information. So thank you, Melissa.
Any further questions from council? Well, Don, I want to thank you very much for coming out this evening and sharing this very important information with us. Much appreciated.
Thank you very much for giving me the time. Have a good rest of your meeting.
Thank you. We have a public hearing this evening. We'll open the public hearing for variation PC 8820. This is for McIver at 613 First Street Northwest. Is there anyone here to speak to the hearing?
Yes, it's Ian McIver speaking on behalf of Courtney.
Oh, hi, Ian. It's welcome. And I'll give you the floor if you want to tell us a bit about your project, or if you just want to answer any questions that come up from council. It's your choice.
Okay, yeah, just not too much to talk about. You have the new measurements, and what we're trying to do is put a small addition on the house. There was in fact a foundation put in place already, so we're looking just to put up new walls and a roof, just a single level space. We're hoping to give the property a better look and just more function throughout the house. That's pretty okay.
Okay, thank you, Ian. Council, did you have any questions for Mr. McIver? Seeing none. Okay, I need a motion to close the hearing, please.
Be it resolved, and I so move that the public hearing for variation PC 8820, McIver for 613 First Street Northwest now be closed.
Moved by Councillor Meyer and seconded by Councillor Buds. All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you.
Okay, council, in front of you, you have a report from the Planning and Economic Development Committee for a request for a variation. The issue is to vary the front yard requirement and the side yard requirement. The front yard requirement from 7.5 meters to be reduced to 1.56 meters, and the side to be reduced when there's no carport or garage from 4.6 to 3.1. So the background, the applicant, Courtney McIver, is applying for a variation in order to allow the following that I just described. And as the speaker said, the owner would like to construct an addition onto the south side of the existing house. Some of the background as well as a review of the area does show that there's 10 houses on the west side of the street. They all vary in length or distance from the front property line. One is 7.5 meters back, another one is 6 meters. There's 6 that range from the 3 meters to the 4.26 meters, and there is one as close as 2.4 meters that's set back from the property line. Council has approved similar requests in the past for the front yard reduction, and the minutes were there for your reference. And as well, council also approved similar requests for a side yard reduction, and those minutes are there for your reference as well. Building is in an R1 residential single family zone, and the application has been circulated to various city departments. There have been no concerns. Public notices were sent to all property owners within a 100-meter radius, and there have been no objections. So with that said, it's the administrative recommendation, and I so move that the council of the city of Portage la Prairie approve the variation request of Courtney McIver to vary the following. Front yard requirement of 7.5 meters to be reduced to 1.56 meters, and side yard requirement with no attached garage or carport of 4.6 meters to be reduced to 3.1 meters at the property known as 613 First Street Northwest, which is legally described as lots 14 and 15, block 3, plan 343 in the parish of Portage la Prairie.
Moved by Councillor Meyer and seconded by Councillor Buds. Any questions or comments on the motion? All those in favor of the motion? And that's carried. Thank you. I'm going to move into committee. First up is Finance Legislative Property Committee. Councillor Buds, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. I have nothing to report on my committee meeting schedule here, but some exciting news later on in our meeting.
Okay, thank you. City Planning and Economic Development Committee, Councillor Meyer, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. And as always, it's always my pleasure to discuss lately the building permits totals for the region and for the city of Portage la Prairie. In front of you, Council, you'll have a couple of building reports as we discuss. The one I would like you to pay attention to is the combined, as we always talk about it from a regional basis. I'll be brief, but I do want to do a real quick year-over-year review just for your information, because we're always concerned. We had a record year in 2019. What was going to happen in 2020? So just in brief or in summary, the dollar value was down. It was down roughly 45%, but the permits, or the number of permits, were up roughly 10%. When you start looking at the numbers, you can see that the residential duplexes are up over $2 million. So it shows you there's some residential development going on. And even though commercial new builds were down, industrial new builds were down, but the permit values were up permits were up, but the values were down about 50%. In the industrial repair, renovations, they were up almost roughly $16 million. And the same for institutional, although not that dollar amount. So I guess in summary, the repairs from 2019, you can see that maybe people are starting to do some renovation, whether it be on a residential perspective or whether it be from a commercial or industrial perspective. In 2019, they were at $8 million, and in 2020, they were over $29 million. So you can kind of see the way they were trending. So to make a long story short, although the dollar value was down roughly 60,000, it was still a record year last year. We still had $134 million, and permits were up roughly 40 over where they were from last year. So just a shout out, of course, to the planning district and everybody that's involved, from city management, the RM, and PRED, and all the other organizations that work together to help get that. That's a significant investment within our city of Portage la Prairie. And if there's no questions, that will conclude my report.
Thank you, Councillor Meyer. Community Services Committee, Councillor Drake, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Nothing for Community Services Committee at this point in the agenda.
Thank you. And Waterworks Committee, Councillor Wall, please.
Nothing to report at this time, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor Wall. Councillor Espy, Transportation Committee, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. The Transportation Committee has nothing to report.
Thank you. And Public Safety Committee, Councillor Knox.
Thank you, Your Worship. Nothing in this portion, but we do have some reports in new business. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We have no deferred business this evening. However, we do have some new business. First item new business is quarterly reports. And this is from City Planning and Economic Development. Councillor Meyer, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Going along with a part of the planning district reports and the building permits, one of those elements, of course, is PRED, or the Portage Regional Economic Development, which is a regional body, as we already know. And to present the fourth quarter report tonight for 2020 is our Economic Development Officer and our Executive Director of PRED, or Portage Regional Economic Development, Ms. Eva Leary. With that said, I'll turn it over to Ms. Leary.
Thank you, Councillor Meyer, and good evening, Council and Your Worship. We know that the fourth quarter of 2020 was a very devastating quarter for everybody in our community, but PRED was resilient and we did have a very good, productive quarter. We adapted to the changes and we dealt with many queries, we helped our businesses, and most importantly worked on those investment attraction, business retention and expansion initiatives pertaining to economic development. We worked closely with our Portage Economic Response Team, really to focus on navigating our way through these unprecedented times. We are very excited to announce that we did expand our team and we hired an Economic Development Coordinator, and they started in January, so that is in the report. So we're excited for that position because that's going to allow us to really put in motion some of those economic development initiatives to grow this region. As I did say, it was a very difficult year for our community, but we did see some great successes. And just to echo Councillor Meyer's comments on the permits, it really does show that Portage la Prairie and region is a growing economy. We've seen this is a significant indicator of our economy because we've seen lots of small and medium businesses open in 2020, and there's also many to come in 2021. We've seen some significant industrial activity as well as lots of residential development, and the queries are still coming in, so that's very good. So congratulations to everybody involved, and we look forward to 2021.
Thank you, Eve. We also have quarterly reports from Community Service Committee. Councillor Draycott, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. My first report on Community Services Committee is for PCRC. We do have Victoria Espy here this evening to speak to that, so I invite her to give her report.
Thank you, Councillor Draycott. Good evening, everybody. I'll just highlight a few exciting things that were touched on in our fourth quarter report. So number one being the Safe at Home Manitoba grants through the province of Manitoba launched in December. So PCRC was successful in securing $43,000 to run a program called Dining at Home with a Chef. So we're supporting our local restaurants who were impacted, especially this past quarter, throughout the pandemic, and we're partnering with them to offer a dining at home experience for many people in Portage la Prairie. The local immigration partnership program just closed an RFP to do a research project on quantifying the economic impact of immigration to Portage la Prairie. So they'll begin that over the next few weeks. The Skills Up class just finished the in-class portion of their education, and they are now on to job readiness. Several virtual events were held throughout the past quarter, including one currently that we're running is free yoga at home Monday to Friday for any citizen who wants to take part. Since the shelter reopened, we have supported 44 individuals. We're actively fundraising to secure funding to ensure that that's a sustainable resource in our community. Wowokia just wrapped up 1 year of being in existence, and 20 families are enrolled in that program, which is going really well. Reaching Home continues to support many clients who are unsheltered or homeless, and I'm really pleased to report that 2 clients who have been supported have now secured permanent housing. So from homeless to permanent housing is incredible. And the Portage Urban Indigenous Peoples Coalition, it has done a few cool things. One is the Road to Reconciliation. So I don't know if you've seen, but there's been editorials that have come out talking about the 94 calls to action and what our community can do to support Indigenous citizens living in our city. One thing to note out of that project, we were able to secure $174,700 in Indigenous COVID support funding. So that is $174,000 that went out to many agencies in our community who support Indigenous people living within city limits. So we did 2 calls for proposals where lots of organizations applied for funding, so to cover food security, mental health supports, transportation to appointments, things like that. So that was also a huge success. So I think those are the highlights, and thank you very much for your time.
Excellent. Thank you very much for your report. PCRC has done a great job in a very different year of continuing to support many people in our community in many different ways. So thank you for all of your hard work and the hard work of your staff as well, Mrs. Espy. My next report would be from the Heritage Advisory Committee. So they, for their fourth quarter, they did report that the new historic photographs of Portage la Prairie achieved #2 bestseller rank in paperback nonfiction at McNally Robinson bookstores in Winnipeg. So that was a great thing to happen for them. As well, they had a grant application where they are looking to create giant decals illustrating Portage la Prairie's history for the upper windows of the Herman Pryor Center. That grant application was approved. So they did receive first installment of $2,500, representing 50% of that grant from this city for the project. As well, it was stated that there's regular contributions being made to Portage la Prairie Memories Facebook page with contribution from Les Green and Brian Barrett as well to that group. And one of the projects that we did hear about previously, the Natural Heritage Signs Project under Nicole Nielsen with the high school students, is going to production phase. So that's kind of a neat thing that we had come to fruition through the Heritage Committee. And then replacement of heritage signs on the Crescent is on hold until the spring. Just research is ongoing for that. So Mr. Kostachuk did present that for the Heritage Committee report. My next report would be our quarterly report for the Portage Parks Committee. Different quarter for the Parks Committee this year. We did actually have some changes in our membership. So our full membership is listed out on the report there. As well, we did have elections. So Steve Hildebrandt is continuing in a 2-year term as our chairperson. We did elect a vice chair, Paige Fretz. As well, Gord Zacharias is taking a 2-year term for secretary. Rachel Templeton is one of our new additions. She's joining the Parks Committee in the PCRC format, and she's a 1-year term as our treasurer, and then myself for a 2-year term for communications director. We did see continued fundraising happening for Simplot Central Park, as well as ongoing development planning for that same park, specifically to the skateboard park. So goals for the next quarter for the Parks Committee include completion of the McCain Interactive Fountain. We hope to see that completion happen as soon as possible in the spring, as well as the artistic component of that. As well, we are looking at continued fundraising for the skate park. And my next report is quarterly report for the ad hoc committee of the Public Arts Committee. So they said it was just a very quiet quarter for the Public Arts Committee. It's just proven challenging to discuss visual projects in a virtual manner. So they are looking at continuation of the Manitoba 150 grant. They have plans to complete and confirm a plan of action for any projects they had for the Manitoba 150 funds. And finally, I do also have a report for our youth counselor. Jacinda Houle is joining us again this evening. So Jacinda, if you are able to, can you unmute your mic? And we would love to hear your fourth quarter report as well. Thank you.
Thank you. So, sorry, just give me a sec to pull it up. Okay. Activities I completed this quarter: attended city council meetings and online meetings, wrote a letter of support for the Youth Hub grant, joined communities building Youth Futures leadership table. I maintained a Facebook account, spoke with former youth council Abigail Davidson about her experiences on council, spoke with Miss Fass about planning the next Meet Your Counselors event, recognized by the Manitoba Teacher Society for my volunteer work in the community, and rewarded with the Young Humanitarian Award, received a volunteer award for volunteer work in the community. And activities begun this quarter: planning to Meet Your Counselors virtual event, became a team captain and got a team together for the coldest night of the year event, created a survey for youth's opinions on what they want to see more of in the community. And my goals for the next quarter is organize and host Meet Your Counselors virtual event for youth, and further discussion on youth involvement and what they want to see in our community that involves youth. And that is it for my report.
Thank you very much. So that does conclude my fourth quarter reports, unless there are any questions.
I had one question, Councillor Draycott. Can you tell us a little bit about the fountain project with Public Art?
Sorry, just to clarify, you're talking about the fountain project with Public Art, or are we talking about the fountain with the Parks Committee?
No, sorry, the fountain project with Public Art Committee?
I don't have anything additional except for what is in the quarterly report. I don't have an update on that. Is there a member of council that would be able to provide an update on that? Councillor Meyer, perhaps?
Yes, thank you, Councillor Draycott and Mr. Mayor. The only thing I can really add to that is that it is just in discussion purpose at this point in time. I sit on the Public Art Committee, and I think they were just exploring. I think this maybe is not exactly, we haven't gone to any degree where we've gotten any approvals. There's still a lot of, what do you call it, discovery to do. We've got to get talk to the city. There's a number of other issues that have to be addressed at this point in time. But yeah, I can give you an example of really a snapshot of just really what we're working on at this point in time. I hope that helps.
Okay, yes, thank you. Sorry, I guess I had two questions. A question for Councillor Cool. Is she looking for donations?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Councillor Cool looking for donations for coldest night of the year?
Oh, yes. Yes, actually, because the coldest night of the year is a fundraising event.
Well, if you sent out the notice to myself and members of council, probably you'll get a donation or two.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Feel free to also include that on your Facebook page. Councillor Poole has a Facebook page, Youth Councillor Portage la Prairie. So that's a great way to stay in touch with what she's doing as well.
That was all my questions, Councillor Draycott, unless anybody else had questions. Okay, Public Safety Committee. Councillor Knox, you have a number of quarterly reports.
We do, Your Worship. Thank you. Our first reports are our fourth quarter Rcmp reports, and we do have Inspector St. Pierre with us tonight. So I will allow him to speak on this report.
Good evening, Your Worship and Council. Thank you for having me this evening. I won't go through too much detail on the reports because I'm sure you're all familiar with them and have read through them all. And I'll leave it to questions afterwards. But just on the first page of the first quarter report here, you'll notice the various crimes and policing activities that are listed there. And there's a significant decrease, rather, in property, person crimes, basically all property crimes. The only thing you'll really notice an increase of over this quarter last year, October to December, is a slight increase of the provincial and federal statutes, which is attributed to the daily, if not multiple times weekly, requests to check into COVID compliance from the public health authorities. With regards to the various initiatives that we've done, this quarter saw the province go into code red, Portage, like the Southern Health first, and then the rest of the province a week later. We had quite a few members transferring in, and that's good. We only had one out and 5 into the detachment area in total. So we're actually sitting really good currently with regards to resources, the best we've been in a couple of years. Knock on wood when I say that. Our overtime expenses are on track. The budget's on track in general. When we get into the initiatives, we're still proactively checking our prolific offenders and completing search warrants and arresting drug dealers and laying charges in that regard. We still got out and had 36 contacts with all of our partnerships that were already referenced tonight, the Urban Indigenous Peoples Coalition, Local Immigration Partnership, Wokio Collaborative, COPP, Bear Clan, rest of it. Well, I guess it's Portage, I'll have to change that, Portage Shelter. So during the third quarter, we also had a very proactive school liaison who made 141 visits to the schools with 31 presentations. Of course, there were no community-related events with COVID because everything pretty much got canceled, but we did get out some media reports. And we did 30 foot patrols and extended patrols in the business district to try and mitigate crime. That was a priority for the city. We were still able to issue 528 provincial offense notices, 4 of them being cell phone violations. We were able to arrest and charge 12 impaired drivers. We were able to do a check stop in around Christmas time, and we made 5 contacts with regards to the city's delivery plan. So we had 11 communications with our Indigenous communities and representatives. Our management team met on 22 different occasions with our supervisor team. And with the elected officials and partners for the city, we met 25 times, and most of those being virtual, of course. So it's been a very productive time. In spite of the restrictions, we've been able to maintain operations and be proactive, which has helped along with COVID to keep crime down in the city. And so we're looking forward to this quarter being Q1 for the city and Q4 for the Rcmp, and wishing it a good one for the city and quiet one for us. Subject to any questions you have, that is my report.
Thank you, Inspector St. Pierre. Bearing no questions for him, our next report is on bylaw enforcement, and with us we do have Director of Public Safety Phil Carpenter, as well as bylaw enforcement Kyle Adamski. And I'm not sure out of the two of you which one is going to be speaking on this report, but I will open it up to whoever that is.
Yeah, we'll let Kyle speak to the report. Go ahead, Kyle.
Yes, good evening, everyone. Phil, did you want me to go over the entire report or just touch on it a bit?
I just touched on highlights there, Kyle, would be good. And if they have questions after, that's fine.
Okay. Just a couple points out of the report. With myself and Phil, we're creating a new bylaw animal control ticket that we can use, kind of blanket the whole department rather than having to scratch out a bunch of different things on our current traffic tickets. Makes things a little more difficult for the girls at City Hall to read. Hopefully we can get these kind of drawn up by the end of the month and have them ordered. But myself and Phil still need to meet on that. After hours calls, we're kind of changing things. I'm recording and documenting all after hours calls. So you'll see later on in the stats that we actually had a lot of after hours calls, but I only responded to 6, I believe. But we're just kind of documenting all the calls that come in so that we can at least see that there is busy times on the phones, at least for after hours with the city. Currently our office is closed just due to the code red issues, but we're open for appointments. And then a big change for us was October 24th, Premier Pallister granted municipal bylaw enforcement officers the authority to enforce the current health orders. So myself and 2 other officers, the chief and the deputy chief, took the training with the Corps commissioners out of Winnipeg. And we have been basically enforcing on a complaint basis. If we receive calls from the public for masks or for business issues, We've been advised that home gatherings are to be dealt with by the Rcmp just because of the accelerated training that they have. Otherwise, tickets. We've issued $13,000 in handwritten tickets, and that includes parking bylaw and animal control. A total of 64 bylaw complaints came through the office this quarter. Auto chalk, we've been using it more and more to recognize other infractions across the town. So we're looking at no parking zones, park in front of hydrants, private driveways. The auto chalk itself for the 2-hour and the 3-hour limit generated $6,100, and then an additional $2,600 was generated from other fines created off the auto chalk itself. Animal control still busy as ever. 97 calls came through our office with a total of 76 cats impounded and 19 dogs. So far to date, since we started, we haven't euthanized any animals because of over limit. We've been able to find them homes within the city or through PAWS or other shelters. We actually just sent 8 cats to BC. So we're finding outside agencies that are helping us out with the animal population that's not claimed. In total, we've made over 250 trips to the ARC. We ourselves have only made 5 trips to outside shelters. We've been lucky enough that people coming through town are picking up the animals for us. We just have to accommodate loading the bus. And here we go. The after hours that we've actually received is 85 calls after hours, and that's after 7 p.m. and weekends. And we've responded to 12. And that's only, a major animal at large, whether an animal is hurt. We've been very lucky with winter, so the cold hasn't been an issue yet, but animals running around town, we've been a few calls for, but the public's good waiting until the next business day to take the animal into their home if that's the case. And then with the COVID-19 enforcement, we've issued $3,800 in fines so far or up to date in the 4th quarter. I can leave that open to council if they have any questions or.
Kyle, I just have a couple of questions for you. So if a citizen has a bylaw complaint or issue or something that they're just not unsure of, what's the best way for them to reach you? Email or phone?
Both is just as effective. Phone is immediate. We can get as much information as we need from them, whereas an email, we're bouncing back and forth. If they call me, I can take down all the information I need and dispatch our bylaw officers immediately if they're not being occupied.
And for somebody who emails, how much time should they expect to get an email response?
Email response, we're fairly quick with, within 30 minutes we're actually typing back. If we get an email with enough detail, we're going to go out right away anyway, and then follow up with an email after, thanks, or we've opened a file. There's usually a accurate response. We're not going to give too much detail back to the public on what specifically we're doing with somebody else's property per se, or if it's an animal, they're open up or they're open to ask questions as they see fit.
But either way, you'll give them some sort of response that you received their email and you're looking into it. Yeah.
We should be. There's the odd one we haven't responded back to immediately, whether we're dealing with something. I'm away from the office in meetings or on the phone in meetings, but there's only been a few that we haven't responded back right away.
Yeah. Perfect. Thank you. That's all I have, Your Worship.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Knox. And Waterworks Committee, Councillor Wall, you have fourth quarter reports for 2020.
Yes, Your Worship. It's a pleasure to present the Utility Division fourth quarter activity report. The water treatment plant daily water production increased by about 3.5 million cubic meters compared to the same time last year, mostly due to industrial demands. The plant's been running fairly smoothly with 2 minor shutdowns of 4 hours due to a lime slaker issue. So if you're using a little extra shampoo, that's when the lime slaker was down. This was resolved under warranty. The ozone and recarbonation chambers 1, 2, and 3 were shut down for routine cleaning and maintenance. Phase 2A and B upgrades are ongoing. Both lime slakers are now installed and working well. Generator install is behind schedule due to equipment delays, but main transfer switch tie-in is scheduled for January. A mag meter issue will be resolved in January with the addition of a water flow straightener. Installation of new ozone system and air scouring system was awarded to ABCO, and work will begin in January and be completed by March 31st. Pre-design for phase 3 is ongoing, should be completed by January. Water pollution control facility. Over the last quarter of 2020, the WPCF has treated an average of 9,100 cubic meters a day of wastewater per day for a total of 839,700 cubic meters of wastewater. There were no exceedances of the Environment Act license for 100% compliance. The municipal pipeline that broke and was patched during the 2019 Thanksgiving storm was replaced in December with no issues or disruption to service. Staff assisted with the valve work at Broadway lift station as well as the Poplar Bluff force main cleaning. The wastewater upgrade project is ongoing and administration is working to complete the final request for proposal and project agreement documents that will be issued to the shortlisted bidders in March of 2021. In the Waterworks division, throughout the last quarter of the year, staff were busy with 3 hydrant replacements, 4 curb stop repairs, 1 water main valve was replaced, and the force main was repaired on 5th Street Southeast. As well, a valve was added to the force main at Gigot Avenue and 21st Street. A new connection was installed on the Poplar Bluff force main to connect that section of pipe. It was no longer in use from the point of Simplot's discharge to the WPCF. From this connection point to the wastewater plant, there are now 2 force mains working in tandem. As well, SFE was contracted to clean out this line. This was a major project requiring large swabs to be sent down the pipe to remove buildup and settled debris. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Councillor Wall. Our next item of new business is the first reading of bylaw 21-8718. This is VS Properties Inc. And this is for the rezoning of 51 Tupper Street South. And this is Councillor Meyer, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. And as Mayor was saying there, this is a report from the Planning Economic Development Committee regarding a rezoning application. So the issue is to commence the zoning amendment process by rezoning the above listed property, and attached is a schedule for the actual property itself to go from C2 Central Commercial, of which is presently zoned, to R3 Multifamily Zone, to the City of Portage la Prairie zoning bylaw number 108492, and by giving the bylaw number 218718 the first reading. Alternatives, of course, are to give the bylaw a first reading, and if that passes, to advertise it, or we do have the option to not give it the first reading. The background in question, or the property in question, is lots 114, 116, Plan 12, which is in the parish of Portage la Prairie, and as we discussed, is presently zoned C2 for Central Commercial Zone. And the applicants, VS Properties, wish to rezone it to a R3 multifamily zone. Portage la Prairie Development states, and it's there for your information, and it deals with everything from the downtown corridor uses, residential uses, and neighborhood area interface. The application will be circulated to the province for review and comment if the first reading goes ahead. As per section 74(1) of the Planning Act, council shall indicate its intentions to enact a zoning bylaw amendment by giving first reading and proceed with public notices set out in section 168. The first reading of bylaw number 218718 will commence the process as defined in the Planning Act in considering this application. The proposed bylaw is also there for your reference as well. So it's the administrative recommendation, and I so move that the council of the city of Portage la Prairie give bylaw number 21-8718 first reading and then provide public notices as defined in section 168 of the Planning Act.
Moved by Councillor Meyer and seconded by Councillor Buds. Any questions or comments on the motion? All those in favor of the motion? And that's carried. Thank you. Our next item of new business is much anticipated, and this is the 2021 budget speech from Finance Chair, Councillor Buds, please.
Thank you, Your Worship, and fellow members of council. It is my pleasure as Chair of the Finance, Legislative, and Property Committee to present to you the 2021 City of Portage la Prairie budget for your approval. The Portage la Prairie area has seen a steady increase in expansion and related building permits over the past 5 years. Activity remains high with over 134 million in permits being issued for 2020 alone. Total property values in our city now exceeds 1.4 billion, with a taxable amount exceeding 712 million. It is this growth and commitment to investment that is providing sufficient revenue in 2021 to fund the year's operating budget increases without needing to increase property taxes. Council is very cognizant of the challenges that our city, province, and country has faced as we begin to recover from the pandemic. No doubt, this past year has been a difficult one for many of our small business owners and employees who have had to manage through partial and complete operating restrictions, loss of earnings, and overall financial stress. Excuse me. Normally, property values are provincially reassessed every 2 years, and we have been made aware now that the province will pause this until 2023 as a recovery measure. Your council is very conscious of its citizens' needs, and with an area population now exceeding 20,000, the city will be continuing with an unprecedented investment in infrastructure throughout 2021 in our efforts to meet the needs of our community well into the future. So to talk a little bit more about investing in infrastructure. Strategic public infrastructure spending is a sound investment that leads to long-lasting economic and social benefits for our citizens. The city has included a number of major projects and initiatives in its 2021 budget. Overall, general capital projects will exceed or expend $10 million, and utility capital projects will expend $32 million. In several ways, these projects have been in the planning stages for many years, which gives us the ability to fund them with a combination of reserve withdrawals, government grants, and again, with no increase in property taxes. For our city, the Crescent Lake Causeway, enhancement of our city's downtown, projects to expand and upgrade our utility services, fire department resources, and green initiatives, along with commencing the redevelopment of Saskatchewan Avenue West, will be our focus. Strengthening community livability. Beyond the basics of having housing, safety, and access to basic services, food, healthcare, schools, a community's livability and sustainability is defined by what makes it better to live here and for its residents to stay. We're entering year 3 of the Crescent Lake Causeway, the largest construction year for this project. Over $6.2 million in earmarked capital funding will be spent on this project in 2021. We are anticipating the culvert system to be installed during the remaining winter months, with the paved road, roundabouts, and landscaping to occur this summer. Enhancing our downtown continues to be a focus for our city. The Sidewalk Renewal and Street Beautification project began in 2020, and to support our downtown businesses, parking meters were removed and innovative technologies to enforce parking on streets and city parking lots was implemented. We will continue this work in 2021 by renewing all downtown lighting, replacing sidewalk sections on the north and south sides of Saskatchewan Avenue between 1st Street West and Royal Road, as well as the south side from Royal Road to 3rd Street East, and renewing benches, planters, and trees in this same area. We are pleased to announce that Simplot Central Park's McCain's interactive water feature will be activated for the first time this summer. While this capital project was entirely funded by the community, donations is directed by the city's Parks Committee. The ongoing maintenance and water supply for the feature will be funded by the city. In addition, we'll be completing feasibility studies for curbside composting, transit, and completing the results of our study to prepare our City Hall Heritage Building to be more accessible. And there will be more further details on this as we go through 2021. Expanding utility capacity. Increased need for utility services and compliance with higher environmental standards are driving our need to expand our utility capacity. Upgrades are underway at the water treatment and wastewater pollution control plants. The massive upgrade of the city's water pollution control plant has begun with selecting 3 entities in the RFQ process to bid on this project, and preparatory work for awarding the RFP by the end of 2021 will require a significant number of resources throughout the year. With the facility's operating management change to occur in 2022, the city must prepare by moving our facilities and lift station maintenance staff to another city location. We will be expanding our operations facility west of 11th Street Northwest to consolidate our facilities, lift station maintenance and parks departments to this one location. There is a lot of benefit in moving all of our operations departments to one location. The city's water treatment plant will continue to see updates in 2021 under a multi-year schedule of upgrades and co-funded by the provincial government through its Manitoba Water Services Board Crown Corporation. We'll also be able to expand our utility service to the RM of Portage la Prairie's Poplar Bluff Industrial Park through the city's contribution to the Poplar Bluff Reservoir Project. This project is spearheaded by the rural municipality. Community image. This council made updating of Saskatchewan Avenue West a top strategic priority, and we are very proud to announce that work will begin in 2021 with the renewal and repositioning of new water and sewer piping on the avenue between 4th Street West and Elm Street. The city is in negotiations with Investing in Canada Infrastructure Program to leverage up to $20.83 million in government funding for this project. Securing this funding will ensure the viability of phase 2 of the project, expected to be completed between 2022 and 2024. Phase 2 of this project will be the rebuilding of Saskatchewan Avenue West, including paved avenue, sidewalks, bike paths, green space, parking spaces, and enhanced land drainage. The city has begun the process to request borrowing approval from the municipal board for the city's funding portion of this project. Phase 2 of this project is expected to attract considerable public interest, and we will hold public consultation regarding this project in 2021. And once again, a common theme, no increase in property taxes is expected as a result of this project. The city has been planning for this project for many years and has identified operating funds available for maturing debt and existing resources to service debt payments for this project over its term of 15 years. Community partnerships and involvement. The city has strong regional partners in conjunction with the RM of Portage la Prairie for the library, handy van, recreation authority, planning district, and economic development. Each of these organizations plays an integral role in our community, and for those impacted by the pandemic restrictions, we look forward to their strong return when safe to do so. The city's 2021 total budget contributions to these partners is $1.8 million. The city received 19 applications for community grants in its application process. 14 worthy community organizations will be awarded community grants of $286,000 in total. And a listing of approved grants will be posted on the city's website and will be communicated directly with each successful applicant in the coming days. Included in my report here tonight is the 2021 community grants and partnership funding totals. So value for tax dollars. Your tax dollars will be hard at work this construction season. There will be construction underway in many areas of our city. In addition to those new capital projects, the city continues to manage $226 million in general capital and $305 million in utility capital assets, with 90 full-time and a total of 55 part-time and seasonal employees. The city's cross-functional asset management committee continues to work on asset plans for the city and is expected to release its asset managed strategic management plan later in 2021. Our ultimate goal is to develop plans for each asset class owned by the city for their scheduled maintenance and replacement and for the addition of new assets as needed. So in summary, the City of Portage la Prairie's 2021 budget is for the general fund. The net operating budget is $20 million and the capital is $10 million. For the utility fund, the net operating is $12.8 million and the capital budget is $32 million. As is our practice, no surpluses are forecasted. When actual results are better than budget, the difference is contributed to our services for use in the future year or for projects and capital purchases. As already stated, there will be no increase in the city's mill rate for 2021. Your property will only be subject to further taxes for assessment if you completed improvements to your property or were in the process of completing or purchasing a new home build. There's always a time lag to bring new home or building builds on the property tax roll by the provincial government to allow for the appropriate assessment values to be identified. The next steps in this budget process will be to wait for the receipt of the Portage la Prairie School Division's budget. This is used to finalize our financial plan and determine the total mill rate. The Manitoba government has announced that they will begin removing school tax from property bills in the coming years, but no further details are available on this change at this time. We are projecting to complete our 2021 financial plan by April, and after a public hearing to approve this document, submission to the provincial government will occur. We are projecting your tax bill will be mailed in to you in early June, and as usual, we will provide you various tools to calculate your 2021 taxes in advance on our website. The 2021 budget speech will also be posted to the website in the next few days. And with that, I would ask that the City Council approve the 2021 budget speech as outlined.
Moved by Councillor Buds and seconded by Councillor Espy. Questions or comments on the motion? Well, just a comment. I want to recognize a lot of hard work that's been done by our council and by our staff, especially the staff of finance and our CEO, Mr. Pato. And this is a very forward-thinking, ambitious budget, and really want to thank everybody that's played a role in this tonight. Any further comments or questions? Councillor Buds?
Yeah, I would just like to take an opportunity to echo those comments, Your Worship. This budget is definitely, we started several years ago about creating a culture of investment in our community. We're seeing the fruits of our labor when it comes to that. And I think this budget speaks to the amount of investment this city and this council is prepared to do to move this city and region into the future for many years to come. So very proud of the effort that's been put forth. The stewards of the community's or citizens' dollars is in good hands. We have a very strong management team and a council that's dedicated to this investment. So very happy to report this budget and look forward to all of the investment that's going to take place in 2021 and beyond.
Okay, seeing no further questions or comments, all those in favor of the motion? And that's carried.
And just finally, I won't go through them all, but the community grants and partnership funding summary is attached there as well for council's consideration. And that does conclude this new business report of mine, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor Buds. Our next item of new business is support of the 2021 census, and this is Community Service Committee. Councillor Draycott, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. So this evening we do have a report about the 2021 census. The issue is to share the information with the public, the importance of completing it, and explain how to do so. So a little bit of background on this. The next census is set to take place in May of 2021, and Statistics Canada has reached out to municipalities for support to increase awareness. Statistics Canada notes that Canadians have relied on census data for over a century for indications on how the country is changing. Census data provides information needed to plan, develop, and evaluate required programs and services such as schools, daycares, family services, housing, emergency services, roads, public transportation, and skills trainings for employment. In response to COVID-19 pandemic, Statistics Canada has adapted to ensure that the 2021 census is conducted in a safe and secure way. They will be hiring approximately 32,000 people across the country to assist in the census collection, which will conveniently be online. So it is the administrative recommendation that the Council of City of Portage la Prairie shows their support to the 2021 census by encouraging all residents to complete their census questionnaire online at www.census.gc.ca, while recognizing that accurate and complete census data supports programs and services that benefit our community. And I so move.
Moved by Councillor Draycott, seconded by Councillor Knox. Any questions or comments on the motion? All those in favor of the motion? And that's carried. Our final item of new business this evening is the 2021 annual tax sale, and this is Finance Committee. Councillor Buds, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. This is a date that I've come back to council on a few occasions, indicating that it's on and it's off again, and now it's back on. And so just in a previous report, we did have a date scheduled, and as a result of the pandemic and some of the challenges that were associated with nailing down this date and having the tax service that does do this contractual work for us get their kind of ducks in a row, we've had to change the date. So this, what I'm recommending to council here today is actually setting the date for the 2021 sale, which is actually reflective of the 2019 property taxes outstanding. So that date is scheduled for September the 13th. And it is a recommendation of your committee, and I so move that the Council of the City of Portage la Prairie approve the 2021 tax sale date of September 13th, 2021 for the real property with the 2019 property taxes still outstanding.
Moved by Councillor Buds and seconded by Councillor Espy. Any questions on the motion? All those in favor of the motion? And that's carried. That concludes our items for new business this evening. We have no old business. So council is adjourned at 7:05 p.m. and we'll move right into committee. And we'll call committee to order at 7:05 p.m. First up is Finance Legislative Property Committee. Councillor Buds, please.
Thank you, Worship. Tonight for committee's consideration is which will be brought forth to council, is to approve the audit plan. A little bit different this year in the sense that we have changed auditors. If council recalls, we were with Myers Norris Penny, and now the new auditor for a period of time is going to be BDO. And so there is a complete audit plan that is outlined there, but basically the interim audit processes were completed in November, which is quite common, and the final field audit work will be completed in this April. Those draft financial statements will be made available no later than June of 2021. And so we're still meeting all the provincial guidelines, and some of the changes, a little small change here is just the materiality number. $850,000, which you do see those go up as the size of your organization starts to go up. So I think the important part here, and one of the challenges that I think our team had, was meeting some of these deadlines, and our new auditor has expressed that this is not going to be an issue for us, and we will have everything in on time back into management and then up to the board. So it will be my recommendation that we're moving forward with the audit plan as outlined. Is there any questions from council on that, or anything to add from management for that matter? Seeing or hearing none, that does conclude my committee report.
Thank you, Councillor Buds. City Planning and Economic Development Committee, Councillor Meyer.
Thank you, Your Worship. The City Planning and Economic Development Committee has nothing to report in committee tonight.
Thank you. Community Services Committee, Councillor Draycott, please.
Thank you, Worship. Only one item on committee this evening for community services. We do have PCRC presentation for Reaching Home Canada and Homelessness Survey. I do see that we have Kathy Regular as well as Alicia Anderson on the call, so I invite you to present to council. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Alicia Anderson, and I am the Reaching Home Coordinator. Obviously, you know that I am based out of the Portage Community Revitalization Corporation. I'm not really sure how much everyone is aware of the actual Reaching Home program. So I'll just give you a little bit of background, and then I'll be handing over to Kathy. Reaching Home is a federally funded program, and we receive our funding, and it flows through the Brandon Neighborhood Renewal Corporation. It is also a Housing First initiative, meaning that the program focuses on helping people who are on the verge of being homeless or are already homeless gain access to affordable and sustainable housing before having to work toward any other goal they may have included, definitely not limited to addiction, family relationships, mental health, employment, and many, many more. What I really like about this program is that even if a participant is struggling with, say, an addiction issue, it is my job to help them to find housing before having to work on sobriety, if they so choose. And then that's quite different from many other programs out there. Another point that I quite like is that Reaching Home is a consent-based program. This allows participants and the provider to build a relationship based on what the participants' wants and needs are, not what the provider feels is best for the participant. There is an intake process, and during this process, we go through something called the SPDAT, which it gains all of our it gains information for Reaching Home, as well as it helps us to determine exactly how we can help support the participant. If the participant does not necessarily meet our direct needs, we have been able to work closely with Wokia and many of the other our community collaterals, and we are able to support them through working with the other community agencies. So it's not like if they come to us and we can't help them, we have nowhere for them to go. And once a participant has gained housing, we move forward on working towards any other goals that they had listed. Perhaps it would be help with resumes to gain employment, or building family relations, connecting them with family doctors, and this is all in order to help them better themselves to sustain their housing before they exit the program. Thought I would share a couple of highlights since I started. Within the first year of operation, Reaching Home has been able to support many community members. Victoria spoke of a couple of them earlier who have sustained housing, and they're starting to work towards other goals. One has sustained housing and is working towards employment. Another one is focusing on his health. And we are actually also in the process of supporting 3 other participants in gaining housing and their recovery journey, which is very exciting. We've also received, which I feel is really important to note, additional funding from the Indigenous Committee Support Fund in order to help Indigenous, Métis, and Inuit individuals experiencing homelessness within the community. This funding has paid for transportation, medication, food, clothing, and other miscellaneous items, such as one of our participants was in need of a bariatric walker, and we were able to provide that to him. He would not have been able to afford it. And so this has helped him to actually gain mobility. He's able to move around a lot better, and he's feeling better. Even though Reaching Home is a federally funded program, we are still able to keep it very community-based, working with many of the other community members and businesses. We're also able to hire a local artist to create the Reaching Home logo, which is now on all of our material, and I just got our brochures this week, so I can drop some of those off if anybody wants. Being that Reaching Home is so community-based, it's also important for us to build strong and supportive relationships with the many property management companies and landlords in Portage la Prairie. There is a program called Rentsmart. This program assists us in educating tenants and landlords of their rights and responsibilities in order to build better relationships with one another. There is a recording process called HIFIS database, and that is basically very similar to what we have for our health. So a client will come to us, we would record their name and information, and if they move forward to, say they moved on to Brandon, and they would just be able to type their name in, pull up their information, and we would be able to support them from community to community. Another part of the program is the point in time magnet event, which my colleague Kathy Regular will be speaking to you about tonight. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Alicia. Good evening, Your Worship and Council. My name is Kathy Regular, and I am working at the Reaching Home Project, Canada's homelessness strategy, with Alicia. And my position is as a pit count coordinator. So what that is the point in time count. It's referred to as a pit count. It's a survey and strategy to help determine the extent of homelessness and affordable housing needs in a community at a single point in time. It's a one-day event. However, the one-day event in no way provides an exact number of homeless persons in our community, but it gives a snapshot of the housing and support needs that exist in our community. The pit count gives a community a better understanding of the extent and types of homelessness that exist, and the information then allows us to target community resources where they are most needed. The hope is not simply to enumerate those that are experiencing homelessness, but it's about causing change at the local level, which will hopefully end homelessness. So the Canadian Observatory on Homelessness defines homelessness in 4 categories. The first one is the one that we're probably the most familiar with, is absolute homelessness. People who are sleeping rough on the streets. Those that are in tents, encampments, they're sleeping in vehicles, abandoned buildings, anywhere not meant for human habitation. This is the most common perception of homelessness. The second type of homelessness is sheltered homelessness. So those are people who are staying in emergency shelters like the Portage Community Shelter, formerly Rest a Bit, Violence Against Women's Shelter, the Portage Women's Shelter, as well as the places like the Canadian Mental Health Association Emergency Unit. The third type of homelessness is provisionally accommodated. So people who are technically not homeless, but they're accessing accommodations that are not permanent. So there may be couch surfers. A lot of youth fall into that category. There are people and families who are staying with other family members or acquaintances because they just can't afford housing, or living in unsafe, unsecure, and unaffordable places. Our fourth category is those who are at risk of homelessness. Again, not technically homeless, but they're individuals and families who experience things like sudden unemployment, those facing eviction, a breakdown in family relationships. They're living in overcrowded housing due to lack of affordable housing, and those who are spending more than 30% of their income on housing. So you see, homelessness takes a few different forms. It's not just about people who live on the streets. Housing insecurity affects a large number of low and middle income families. And what we're seeing this past year are the struggles that many people in Canada are facing due to COVID-19 pandemic. People are losing their jobs, or they're having their hours reduced. Food costs are increasing, which leaves many families in a situation of having to choose between feeding themselves and their families and maintaining a roof over their heads. Affordable, secure, safe housing is an issue for many people in our community. The enumeration and surveys will be conducted at the local shelters, and those will be done by shelter staff due to COVID restrictions. And we will also be doing a magnet event at the Herman Pryor Center, and that will take place on March the 4th from 11:30 in the morning till 7 p.m. At the Herman Pryor Center, we will have volunteers assisting in having participants fill out the surveys on affordable housing. Once completed, the results will be submitted to the Reaching Home Canada HIFIS database, and will contribute to the cross-Canada picture of homelessness to help understand the population affected by homelessness and support that may be needed to help them find safe, secure, affordable housing. So all of this is to take place on March the 4th. Again, it is just a snapshot of homelessness. It will not give us an absolute number of homeless in our community, but it will give a great picture of where the different types of homelessness are, not just the people on the street. And Alicia's program is a great support to all of these people in our community. Thank you. Does anyone have any questions? Yes, Councillor Wall.
Yes, I just wanted to thank both of you for the work you're doing in our community. I couldn't help but note that in the previous presentation, it was mentioned that sobriety was not a prerequisite for obtaining housing. And I think that's a huge roadblock that's been removed and goes a long way to accommodating people.
Yes, it does. It is a program where everyone counts. Reaching Home, Canada's homelessness strategy, is reaching out to everyone who's needing housing.
Absolutely.
If there's no more questions, thank you very much for allowing us to present to you this evening.
Thank you very much, Judy, for joining us.
Thank you. Good night.
And that does conclude Community Services Committee report this evening, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor Draycott. Waterworks Committee, Councillor Wall.
Your Waterworks Committee has no report for committee this evening, Your Worship.
Thank you. And Transportation Committee, Councillor Espy.
Thank you, Your Worship. The Transportation Committee has nothing to report.
And Councillor Knox, anything from Public Safety?
Thank you, Your Worship. Your Public Safety Committee has nothing tonight.
And committee is adjourned at 7:21 p.m. Thank you for coming out, everybody.